Hello, boring people. Tonight we time travel to the Jurassic period, a time when continents were still figuring out where they wanted to be, when ferns were as tall as buildings, and when the most terrifying predators on Earth were still just getting their act together. You wake up groggy, face down in what feels like wet mulch. The air smells like moldy celery and campfire smoke. As you lift your head, slowly, because your neck apparently made a deal with gravity, you're greeted by a strange sight. Ferns taller than streetlights, thick vines twisted like ancient ropes, and the distant honking groan of something gigantic. Welcome to the Jurassic. You're barefoot, slightly confused, and your pajamas are now soaked in morning dew, or was it swamp juice? Hard to tell. A dragonfly the size of a baguette zooms past your head. You wave at it. It does not wave back. Everything around you pulses with life. Thick fog snakes through the undergrowth. Somewhere nearby, a reptilian shriek echoes, followed by the sound of something very large and very squishy trudging through mud. You instinctively crouch, forgetting that crouching makes zero difference when you're made of soft, snackable flesh. You're basically a burrito with a heartbeat. You probably won't survive this. So before you jump into this boring and sleepy Jurassic story, please take a moment to like my videos and subscribe to my channel. But only if you actually enjoy and feel comfortable with the stories I tell here. And while you're at it, drop your location and the local time in the comments. I'm always curious to know where and when people are pretending to nap through ancient history. Now lie down and relax. Turn off the lights. Maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's start our boring journey together tonight. You slowly sit up. Something sticky squishes beneath you. It's moss. At least, you hope it's moss. You brush it off your leg, stand up shakily, and take in the horizon. No cities. No billboards. Just endless green, broken only by the black, toothy silhouettes of volcanoes along the distance. A bird calls out overhead, but it's not a bird. It's more like a flying reptile. Its leathery wings flap lazily against the heavy air, casting a passing shadow that sends your anxiety into overdrive. The Jurassic was part of the Mesozoic era, beginning about 201 million years ago and stretching lazily into the next 56 million. You're somewhere in the middle of that sleepy sprawl. Earth's continents are still mostly clumped together in a supercontinent called Pangaea, though cracks have begun to appear like a slowly splitting cookie. Giant rift valleys run like veins across the land. Lava bubbles lazily out of them in the distance, painting the sky with smoke that turns the sunlight into a moody golden soup. You take your first steps. The ground squelches. Your every movement sends puffs of ancient spores and pollen into the air. Your sinuses begin plotting their revenge immediately. A gentle breeze carries the scent of sulfur and tree sap. You try to walk casually, but nothing in this time period is casual. Every bush could hide a predator. Every puddle could be a camouflaged fish with teeth. Every gentle rustle makes your nervous system throw a tantrum. Somewhere to your right, something massive snorts. You freeze. Your ears perk up. Is that breathing? Yes, and it's not yours. A rhythmic, slow breathing, like a furnace trying to whisper. You tiptoe toward the sound, because clearly you've never seen a Jurassic Park movie, and peek through a wall of dangling vines. There it is, your first proper Jurassic dinosaur. A chunky, herbivorous creature, maybe a Solidosaurus, grazes in the ferns. It's not huge, not terrifying, just sort of lumpy. Its scaly skin glistens in the humidity. It looks up, chewing lazily, blinks one lazy eye, and completely ignores you. The first rejection of the Jurassic. You're off to a great start. You sigh in relief and wipe your forehead, only to realize your hands are covered in something green and sticky. Again, moss? Sap? Primeval booger? You'll never know. The thing about this period, besides how everything looks like it wants to either eat you or give you a rash, is how alive the world is. This is a warm, wet earth. Rain falls often, and it's not the clean kind of rain. It smells like wet bark and melted minerals. You pass under a natural archway of tree trunks twisted like cinnamon rolls, watching as the light filters through prehistoric leaves so large you could use them as bed sheets. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you know this is all temporary. The things you see now, these mossy plains, the dumb-looking dinosaur that just burped, the birds that aren't really birds, will one day vanish. Time will erase them, crush them under shifting tectonic plates, and bury their bones for humans to find and argue about. Speaking of arguing, historians still debate whether the Jurassic had true grasslands. Some say grass didn't evolve until much later, which makes sense. Most of what you're stepping through feels more like damp salad than lawn. Others claim primitive grass-like plants might have existed in the underbrush. Meanwhile, you try not to trip over a root shaped like a sleeping dog. And the bugs. Oh, the bugs. One lands on your neck and bites. You slap it. It explodes with an audible pop. That can't be normal. You feel dizzy. Maybe it had Jurassic caffeine. You sit down again, exhausted from existing in a world that never heard of pillows or soap. And as the sun dips lower in the sky, the light becomes thick and golden. Shadows stretch across the ground like yawning ghosts. Somewhere in the distance, a volcano coughs. A bird lizard screeches overhead. Your stomach rumbles, and you remember that they don't serve snacks in the Mesozoic. You lie back and stare up at the massive fronds above you. The Jurassic sky, strange, heavy, tinged with orange, starts to darken just a little. You take a deep breath. This is just the beginning. You're still lying there like a confused time traveler-shaped pancake, blinking up at the jungle ceiling, when the ground under you gives a lazy groan. Not a roar, not a rumble, just a slow, tectonic creak, like the planet is stretching its ancient back. That's the thing about the Jurassic. It's not all roaring dinosaurs and teeth. Sometimes it's just the sound of continents unzipping themselves while you lie on your back wondering if bugs this size are legally allowed to exist. You stand up, brushing off leaves and what might be the ancient ancestor of moss, or possibly a small sleeping creature you've just offended. Who knows? The air is thick, warm, and wet, like someone put the rainforest through a fog machine and added a dash of swamp breath. You squint through the haze ahead and decide to explore. Slowly, carefully, because this isn't a theme park. This is the world raw and unfiltered, fresh out of the oven, with the safety settings turned off. The jungle parts before you, revealing a small rise, bare rock streaked with red clay and dotted with stubborn ferns. You climb it, grabbing twisted roots for balance. At the top, your breath catches. Before you lies the ancient world, wild and wide open. Rolling hills blanketed in tree ferns and cycads stretch into the distance. Massive, alien-looking conifers pierce the air like green spires. Thick vines hang like ropes from trees the size of apartment buildings. In the far-off horizon, several volcanoes belch slow curls of smoke into a sky painted with streaks of yellow and amber. It feels like standing in a dream, except the humidity is very real, and your shirt is already stuck to your back. A diplodocus herd grazes peacefully down below, moving slowly like ancient ships through a sea of foliage. They're enormous, the size of small buildings. Their long necks sway lazily side to side, pulling tufts of leaves into mouths the size of wheelbarrows. And they make the oddest sounds, not terrifying bellows but soft, grumbly hums. It's like standing near very polite whales. You take a few cautious steps down the slope. The clay is slippery. Predictably, you slip. You land in a patch of spongy ferns, startling what looks like a cross between a frog and a toad wearing armor. It hops off, indignant. As you get closer to the sauropods, you realize just how massive these creatures are. Their legs are like columns, their tails like whips dragging through the underbrush. One of them turns its head slightly in your direction, blinks, then returns to the endless, slow buffet of prehistoric salad. You don't register as a threat or a snack. Small victories. And then an earthquake? No, just one of them sneezing. The explosion of sound sends birds, again, not really birds, screaming out of nearby trees. A cloud of pollen bursts into the air, and for a moment, you feel like you've stepped into a glittery nightmare. Your eyes water. Jurassic hay fever is a thing. Apparently, dinosaurs didn't invent tissues. Now here's the nerdy part. This explosion of plant life isn't random. The Jurassic is known for its dramatic greening of the world. It's a time of vascular plant domination. Think ferns, cycads, and ginkgos instead of grasses and flowers. And these forests? They're not quiet. Every inch is alive. Chittering bugs, squawking protobirds, rustling leaves. The Jurassic jungle is like a noisy roommate who never learned how to whisper. Fringe theory time. Some paleobotanists believe that the massive size of Jurassic herbivores wasn't just about evading predators. It may have had something to do with digestion. These plants were tough, fibrous, and loaded with weird chemical defenses. It took a big gut and a lot of fermentation to break them down. So yes, you're watching living compost machines. Enormous, lumbering, flatulent compost machines. One lumbers past you. The ground shakes gently. You instinctively hold your breath, as if you're sneaking through a museum and one of the exhibits just moved. You could reach out and touch its skin. It's like weathered leather, lined with scars and ancient bug bites. It smells earthy, not bad, just old, like sun-baked tree bark and slightly damp hay. A juvenile follows behind, smaller, but still large enough to step on you and mistake the crunch for a fallen branch. It stares at you with the kind of curiosity you might reserve for a half-eaten snack left in your fridge. Then it snorts and continues on. You, once again, are beneath notice. You wander on. Up close, the jungle is even stranger. Plants have leaves the size of surfboards. Some unfurl as you pass by, responding to movement. Others are spiny, clearly evolved to say, "Touch me and regret everything." Fungi grow in weird clusters, some glowing faintly in the low light. You poke one. It puffs out a cloud of spores, and you immediately regret your choices. And then you hear it, a distant rumble that doesn't feel like a sneeze or a step. No, this one is from the earth itself. The volcano is stirring. Not violently, not yet, but you can feel it in the soles of your feet. A slow heartbeat, a reminder that this world is young, still under construction. The earth in the Jurassic is restless. Tectonic plates are shifting. New mountains are forming. Oceans are opening like yawns in the crust. You're standing on a world learning how to become itself. Historians still argue whether the breakup of Pangaea happened in a sudden continental drama or a slow, million-year ghosting. Either way, you're here for the previews. Cracks split the land in long, jagged lines, filled with lava or water or both. Life creeps along the edges, adapting to every bump and bubble the earth throws at it. You climb a ridge to get a better look. Lava glows in the distance like a dying ember. Smoke rises gently into the thick Jurassic air. The world doesn't feel violent. Not yet. It just feels raw, like dough that hasn't finished baking, like soup that's still simmering. You, on the other hand, are very done. As night creeps in, a reddish haze settles over the horizon. The trees cast long shadows. The jungle hums a little softer. And you, tired, sweaty, and slightly traumatized by prehistoric ferns, sit on a warm rock and just breathe. You made it through another hour of the Jurassic. You sit on your warm rock, staring at the sky, which is now taking on colors that Crayola has never even attempted. Mauve. No. Burnt sienna? Close. It's more like volcanic blush meets mosquito sunset. The clouds are streaked with glowing orange, the kind that makes you wonder if the sun is setting or the planet is just slightly on fire again. Night in the Jurassic creeps up slowly, like a sleepy lizard crawling into your lap, uninvited. It's not sudden, not sharp. It oozes across the landscape. The sounds change. The day chirps fade. The screeches mellow. And the bugs? They switch shifts. The daytime squad clocks out, and the night crew comes alive with a whole new set of clicking noises and glow-in-the-dark features. Great, because bugs weren't weird enough already. You glance around, realizing that even though you're still very much in the same time travel-induced fever dream, something has changed. There's a tension in the air, a hush that creeps between the trees. The Diplodocus herd has moved on, vanishing like bulky ghosts into the underbrush. And now the predators come out. Welcome to Jurassic nightlife. You keep walking, half because you're curious, half because you refuse to fall asleep where a creature might mistake you for a mushroom with legs. The forest grows darker, but the stars begin to blink overhead, slowly, gently. With no modern light pollution, the sky is a massive glitter dump of constellations you don't recognize. It's the kind of night sky ancient sailors would write poetry about, assuming the dinosaurs didn't eat their notebooks. As you peer upward, a shadow flits past the stars. Fast, big, wings. You duck instinctively, though honestly, if it was going to grab you, you'd already be airborne and screaming. The shape banks and loops again, letting out a hoarse cry somewhere between a crow and a badly tuned trumpet. A Rhamphorhynchus, maybe, or one of its cousins. These flying reptiles dominate the twilight skies of the Jurassic. Not birds. These things are pure reptilian weirdness. Membranous wings, long tails with stiff rudder-like ends, and mouths full of needle teeth. Some were only as big as hawks. Others, as big as small planes. They aren't hunting you, though. At least not yet. These guys prefer fish, insects, and smaller prey. You're more like an oddly dressed tourist they don't have a category for. One swoops low, its leathery wings cutting the air like wet kites. You flinch. It banks hard and vanishes behind the tree lane. You try to breathe normally, like this isn't the 10th time today your nervous system has tried to file for retirement. Suddenly, a sound behind you, a low chuff. A breath. A rumble. You freeze, your brain going through all known options. Run, fight, cry, play dead, or try to reason with a creature that doesn't understand words. Slowly, you turn. Standing just a few yards away, watching you from the shadows, is something built like a lizard and a chicken had an angry, muscular child. Not huge, maybe the size of a golden retriever. But those claws? Those teeth? Definitely not house-trained. It's probably a small theropod, perhaps an early relative of Coelophysis or something more obscure. Paleontologists argue a lot about these smaller carnivores, what they ate, how they hunted, and whether they had feathers. Yes, feathers. Some evidence suggests even Jurassic predators may have been experimenting with proto-feathers, not for flight, but for insulation or display. So basically, you might be staring at a murder chicken. The thing stares at you. Its eyes glint in the moonlight. Yes, there's a full Jurassic moon now, because of course there is, and it lets out a low, rattling hiss. You raise your hands. Not that it helps, but it feels like the right thing to do. Then it snorts, shakes its little arms like it's unimpressed by your fashion choices, and slinks off into the undergrowth. You exhale, and immediately realize you've backed up into a thorny bush. Smooth. You continue walking, a little faster now. The jungle is different at night. Bioluminescent fungi glow faintly along fallen logs. Fireflies drift lazily through the trees, blinking in strange rhythms that might be Morse code for, "You shouldn't be here." Somewhere nearby, frogs croak in deep baritones. And every so often, the high scream of something dying punctuates the air. You pretend not to hear it. And then, you find water. A wide, shallow lake reflects the stars and the smoke-tinted moon. You kneel beside it, cupping your hands to drink, and immediately realize that was a mistake. The water tastes like moss, ash, and regret. You spit it out, your dignity partially intact. But the lake is beautiful, peaceful, quiet. Until it isn't. The surface ripples. Just slightly. You freeze. Slowly, quietly, you step back. A long, narrow snout breaks the water. A Jurassic crocodilomorph, an ancient cousin of modern crocodiles. Except this one is sleeker, faster, and a little more ambitious. It glides toward the shoreline with the patience of a thing that has never known fear. You're already gone. You sprint into the ferns, branches slapping your face, your lungs screaming. You're not even sure what direction you're running, just away. That's all your brain needs right now. Away from teeth. Away from splashes. Away from things that lurk beneath still water. Finally, you stop, gasping, sweaty, half covered in spider webs you didn't know existed. And somehow, you feel alive. You collapse against a tree trunk that smells like wet cedar. Above you, a soft breeze rustles the canopy. Far in the distance, The croc thing gives up and probably finds a snack that doesn't scream quite as much. Historians still argue whether Jurassic crocodilians had advanced social behavior or just really liked to be left alone. What we know is that they were effective ambush predators and didn't mind mixing things up between freshwater and coastal ecosystems. Translation: they were versatile and terrifying, and you should not be anywhere near them. As your heartbeat slows, the night jungle sings around you again. The drama passes. Your body relaxes. You lie down in a soft patch of leaves and moss, looking up at constellations long dead. The night sounds settle into a lullaby of creaks, rustles, and far-off croaks. For now, you've survived another night in the Jurassic. Barely. You wake up to something poking your foot. Not hard. Not aggressive. Just persistent. You squint your eyes open and immediately regret it. The Jurassic morning sunlight doesn't care about your feelings. It beams through the trees like a stage spotlight trying to make sure you're definitely not asleep anymore. You shift slightly and feel the poke again, sharp, jabby, and oddly polite. You sit up. Standing near your feet is a small creature with bright eyes, a long snout, and the audacity to look bored with you. It's covered in feathery filaments, more like fuzz, really, and it cocks its head to one side like it's waiting for you to say something clever. A little Compsognathus, maybe, or something in the general family of small, curious theropods. And it's not alone. Within seconds, a whole group of them emerges from the underbrush. Quick, nimble, and extremely nosy, they circle you with the kind of coordination that would make synchronized swimmers jealous. You freeze, unsure whether they're about to perform a prehistoric musical number or pickpocket you. One of them darts in and grabs something from your pocket, a granola bar wrapper you didn't know had survived the time jump. It chews it thoughtfully, realizes it's not food, and tosses it away with a disgusted snort. Another one climbs onto your leg, gives it a curious sniff, and hops off like you failed some kind of quality inspection. These creatures were once thought to be solo hunters, but now paleontologists think some may have moved in packs, or at least loose groups. Still, historians and scientists argue whether they were scavengers, insectivores, or opportunistic omnivores, meaning they ate pretty much anything, including confused time travelers like yourself, if the mood struck. One of them sneezes. You sneeze back. For a weird moment, there's mutual respect. You slowly rise to your feet, careful not to step on any tiny toes. The group watches with keen eyes but doesn't scatter. Instead, they trail you like nosy tour guides as you begin walking again, the jungle now fully awake around you. This morning, the forest is alive in a different way. Mist coils through the undergrowth, curling around your ankles like curious snakes. Dew glistens on broad leaves, catching the sunlight and flinging it into your eyes every few steps. The air is thick, wet, and filled with the chirps, trills, and hoots of unseen animals. Everything is louder in the morning, especially the bugs. You start to think they might be running the entire Jurassic ecosystem just through sheer volume. You brush aside a fern the size of a patio umbrella and find yourself in a clearing, one that's been trampled recently. Massive footprints, as wide as bathtubs, pock the muddy earth. Something big has been through here. Very recently. You kneel and touch one. It's still warm, which means... Yep, roar. Far off, not close enough to panic yet, but definitely close enough to not relax. A deep, thunderous bellow rolls through the forest like a warning siren made of nightmares. You turn to the Compsognathus crew. They're already gone. So, you know bad sign. Still, you press on. Because what else are you going to do? Go back to sleep on a log and hope the murder bird from earlier returns? No thanks. As you walk deeper into the forest, you start to notice other signs, claw marks on tree trunks, half-eaten bones, the occasional pile of what can only be described as prehistoric leftovers. Something is hunting out here. And based on the size of the prints, it's probably not doing it quietly. And then you find something even weirder, a nest. Nestled in a hollow, shielded by ferns and woven vines, are a cluster of giant, leathery eggs. They're roughly the size of footballs, though they look like someone crossed a turtle shell with an avocado. You count at least 7. One of them wiggles slightly. Your instincts scream, step away slowly. But your curiosity says, poke it. And of course, you listen to curiosity, because you've clearly not learned anything yet. You reach out and freeze as a shadow falls over you. A towering shape looms at the edge of the clearing. Not a Tyrannosaurus, mind you. It's too early for those. But possibly one of its early ancestors or cousins. Something like Ceratosaurus, with its trademark horned snout and row of ridged backplates. It stands tall and alert, eyes fixed on you, jaw half open like it's trying to decide whether you're food, threat, or simply a very badly lost time tourist. You step back from the nest, very slowly. One step, then another. The dinosaur huffs, snorts, its pupils narrow. It steps forward. You run. You crash through the jungle like a panicked, flailing wind chime. Branches slap your arms. Leaves whip your face. You don't look back, because you've seen enough movies to know that's how people trip and die. Behind you, the sounds of pursuit thunder through the forest. Every step of that creature feels like a drumbeat in your ribs. Trees shudder. Birds flee. The forest itself seems to lean away from the chaos. And then, just when you think you've outrun it, you fall. Right into a sinkhole. You hit the bottom hard, rolling through wet clay and into a shallow cavern. Pain flares in your shoulder. You groan, stunned. Above you, the forest roars. But the dinosaur doesn't follow. Either it can't see you, or it's decided you're not worth the trouble. Lucky, or just very disappointing as a snack. The sinkhole smells like damp stone and old life. You look around and realize this isn't just a random hole, it's a fossil bed. Bones jut from the walls like half-buried secrets. Massive ribs, tiny jaws. A vertebra the size of a dinner plate. You're literally sitting on millions of years of evolutionary leftovers. This part? This is where historians still argue. Is the Jurassic fossil record missing more than it shows? Many say the period's soft-bodied creatures, plants, and insect life were never well preserved, so we're only seeing the loudest, biggest, boniest members of the party. It's like judging human history by what survived in a garbage dump. Fascinating, but very incomplete. You sit there for a moment, catching your breath, heart pounding like a war drum. The jungle hums above, the predator has moved on, and you somehow are still alive. Again, you climb out slowly, using exposed roots and rocks like a makeshift ladder. Your hands are slick with mud and something that might have been a 150-million-year-old worm. Don't think about it. Back on solid ground, you emerge into sunlight once more. The jungle welcomes you back with a breeze and the distant hoot of something too big to cuddle. You wipe your face, straighten up, and mutter to yourself, "This is fine. Everything's fine." And then a beetle the size of your hand lands on your shoulder. You do not scream. You internally scream. Progress. You flick the beetle off your shoulder with the kind of delicate grace one uses when dealing with live grenades, or in this case, prehistoric insects the size of dinner rolls. It flies away in slow motion, its iridescent shell catching the light like a disco ball of doom. Insects during the Jurassic? Absolutely thriving. The lack of birds and abundance of warm, moist environments meant bugs were basically the landlords of this timeline. Dragonflies the size of crows, millipedes that could trip a horse, and yes, beetles that don't understand personal space. You're in their world now, and they know it. Still twitching from the encounter, you walk onward. The jungle changes subtly. The undergrowth thins, the ground grows firmer, and the sunlight stretches wider. You break through the last wall of ferns and find yourself standing at the edge of a wide, open plain. It's like stepping onto another planet. Golden grass rolls out before you like an ancient sea, waist high and rustling gently in the breeze. Isolated trees, short, squat conifers and cycads, dot the horizon like prehistoric bonsai. Off in the distance, you spot something moving. Lots of somethings. You squint. It's a herd. A massive one. Hundreds of animals stretch across the plain in tight formation, grazing, trotting, and snorting softly. Their long necks bob rhythmically, tails swaying like pendulums in slow motion. They move like a living machine, precise, unified, and enormous. Welcome to your first sauropod migration. You step forward cautiously, heart thudding. The nearest sauropod notices you, probably a Camarasaurus, and gives you a stare like a mildly annoyed librarian. Its eyes are the size of salad plates. It huffs and keeps moving, its feet pressing craters into the soft earth. You realize these aren't just wandering giants. They're migrating. Paleontologists believe many sauropods undertook long seasonal treks in search of food and water. With bodies so huge and stomachs so hungry, staying in one place would be environmental devastation. So they moved, constantly, gracefully, like an orchestra of walking skyscrapers. The ground rumbles faintly beneath your feet as you begin walking alongside them. It's oddly peaceful. For the first time in this journey, you're not running, ducking, or hiding, just walking, as if you're part of the herd. The herd accepts you. Sort of. One juvenile gets a little too curious and trots closer, neck swaying like a giant question mark. You brace for a sneeze, or maybe a sneeze plus a full-body slime incident. But the creature just sniffs your hair, blinks once, and tromps away. You're flattered. Along the edge of the herd, smaller creatures tag along, primitive mammals and nimble dinosaurs picking through the trampled grass for leftovers. You see a fuzzy, rodent-like creature dart out, snag something, and vanish back into its burrow. These early mammals weren't large, but they were survivors. Fast, clever, and good at hiding, traits that, shockingly, you're starting to admire more and more. Overhead, pterosaurs drift lazily like kites without strings. Some have wingspans as wide as your arms, while others are the size of sparrows. One lands briefly on the back of a moving sauropod, cleans its claws like a sunbathing cat, then flaps off again. Apparently, prehistoric flight paths include all the perks. You keep walking. Soon, the herd reaches a slow-moving river. The sauropods break formation and begin wading in, their giant feet churning up. Mud and silt. Some drink. Others simply splash, lifting their heads like rubber ducks in slow motion. You crouch by the water, cupping your hands for another attempt at hydration. This time the water's better, cool, fresh, slightly earthy, like drinking from a salad. A really big salad with legs. Suddenly, the herd stiffens. A low vibration hums through the ground. You look up. Something is approaching from the opposite bank. It's not as big as the sauropods, not even close, but it moves with a predator's grace, low, deliberate, and fully aware of the attention it commands. You know that body shape, even if you've only seen it in museums, textbooks, or very dramatic documentaries. A theropod, possibly Allosaurus, maybe even Torvosaurus. Whatever its exact genus, it is definitely a predator, and the sauropods know it. The herd doesn't panic. Not really. Instead, they tighten their formation. Adults circle in, placing the young in the center. Tails swish. Heads raise. There's no roar. No trumpeting chaos. Just silent defense. The predator paces along the far bank, watching, testing. It knows an attack would be dangerous. A wrong step could mean a broken jaw from a swinging tail or a trampling by 30 tons of walking muscle. Historians still debate whether predators like Allosaurus hunted cooperatively or were strictly solo hunters. The fossil record gives mixed signals. Some mass kill sites suggest group behavior, while others hint at violent competition between individuals. The one thing that's clear? These hunters weren't stupid. They calculated risk. And this, attacking a full-grown sauropod in broad daylight. This looks like too much risk. The predator turns and vanishes into the trees. You exhale and realize something strange. You were rooting for the sauropods. Somewhere between the sneezes and stampedes, you bonded with these walking mountain ranges. As the herd resumes drinking and splashing, you sit on a nearby rock and let the sun dry your sweat. The air smells like warm pine and wet moss. A breeze carries pollen and tiny spores across the river in lazy spirals. It's the kind of moment where time feels soft, blurry, and then something squishes under your hand. You lift it up and discover a pile of ancient, very fresh dinosaur dung. You were sitting in it, all along. You stare at your hand, then at the herd, then back at your hand. A slow sigh leaves your body like steam escaping a broken kettle. You wipe it off on a nearby fern and tell yourself this is what scientists would call full immersion. Still, it's hard to stay mad. You survived a predator standoff, shared water with giants, and got a free mud treatment, plus a bonus reality check. As the herd begins to move again, you rise to follow, keeping to the edges this time. One sauropod turns its head ever so slightly, as if to say, "Try to stay out of the poop, tourist." You nod. Message received. The herd marches forward, and you trail them like the world's least qualified park ranger. Your feet sink slightly into the soft earth, now printed with thousands of overlapping footprints. It's like walking on warm bread dough, if bread dough smelled like plants, sweat, and dinosaur farts. Yes, that's your current atmosphere. The sauropods aren't rushing. They move with the kind of rhythm only creatures who don't worry about predators or taxes can afford. Every step is a slow, deliberate thud, shaking loose bits of ancient pollen from the trees. You hear distant bug calls, the rustle of wings above, and the occasional loud sneeze from one particularly allergic-looking apatosaurus. A few smaller dinosaurs wander near the edges of the herd, stegosaurs, likely. Their tiny heads bob along like nervous librarians trying to avoid eye contact. Those plates on their backs? No one actually agrees what they were for. Cooling? Defense? Social signaling? Historians still argue whether the plates had blood vessels for thermal regulation, or if they were just fashionable armor. One young stegosaur stops to inspect you. Its little brain, roughly the size of a lime, seems unsure whether you're a threat, a snack, or a strangely dressed plant. You smile nervously. It blinks. You blink back. Then, with a snort, it waddles away, tail swaying like it's flipping you off in slow motion. Fair enough. After hours of walking, the terrain begins to shift again. The trees thin into something resembling a savanna. Fewer conifers. More ginkgo-like trees and scrubby undergrowth. The sun begins to sink behind a jagged ridge, painting the sky in streaks of orange and purple. The herd starts settling in for the night, bunching together in the open field like a neighborhood of campers who forgot tents. And that's when you hear it, the sound of running water. You pivot toward it, weaving through fern clusters and knobby roots until you come to a small brook, clear, trickling, and bordered by smooth stones and moss. You kneel down and splash water on your face. It's cold, almost modern. Above you, fireflies flicker to life. Except they're not fireflies. They're bioluminescent insects from a time long before lightning bugs were cool. Their glow pulses greenish blue, floating lazily like bored Christmas lights. You lie back in the grass, letting the world hum around you. And then your elbow hits something metal. Wait, what? You sit up fast. Really fast. Too fast. Actually, your neck cracks in protest. But yeah, there it is. A rusty metallic edge, sticking out from the dirt. You start digging. It takes a minute, but finally, you unearth a shape. A square, box-like thing half sunken into the earth. It's not natural, not even close. It has gears, hinges, a faint label scratched into the side. You rub the dirt off. It reads, "Property of the Jurassic Geological Survey, Field Kit 3B. Your brain breaks a little. Field kit. As in, someone else has been here? You flip the lid. Inside, a half-disintegrated notebook, what looks like an old-school hand compass, and a weird metal stylus. The paper's mostly rotted, but some of the ink is still legible. You hold the pages up to the fading light and squint. Day 17. The herd didn't notice me again. That's good. I think they're headed toward the lowlands. Found signs of predator activity by the ridge. Avoided. Almost stepped in dung again. Classic mistake. Starting to miss electricity. And coffee. Mostly coffee. You stare at the journal. Your hands tremble just slightly. You are not the first person to land in the Jurassic. And you might not be the last. The implications crackle through your brain like static. Was this a scientist? A time traveler like you? Someone who came here on purpose? Or worse, accidentally? There's no sign of where they went next. No bones. No clothes. Just a lonely, rusted box full of cryptic breadcrumbs and sarcastic dinosaur commentary. You put the compass in your pocket. Not because you know how to use it, you really don't, but because it feels like a breadcrumb pointing in some direction. Then you hear something else. Low. Echoing. Almost musical. Drums? You rise slowly, eyes scanning the horizon. Nothing. But the sound is unmistakable. A rhythm steady, intentional, and unnatural. You're not the only sapient creature awake tonight. You creep toward the sound, each footstep carefully placed between roots and rocks. The jungle opens into a clearing, and you duck behind a tree to avoid being seen. There's firelight. Actual fire. A circle of it. Torches placed in a ring. And around them, figures. Tall ones. You blink hard. Are they human? No, not quite. Too lanky. Too reptilian. The creatures stand upright, two-legged, with long tails and elongated snouts. Their arms end in clever-looking claws, and their heads tilt with unsettling intelligence. They wear nothing, but they move like they think, like they decide. You count 5 of them, all circling the fire, tapping stones against the logs, creating a strange, hollow rhythm. One of them steps forward, raises a stick carved with symbols, and lets out a high-pitched screech that echoes into the night like an opera singer with a lizard's throat. What are you looking at? You sit, hidden, stunned. There is no fossil record for intelligent dinosaur species. Not one bone, not one tool. But that doesn't mean it couldn't have happened briefly, somewhere, sometime, only to vanish without a trace. Historians and fringe theorists have long debated whether some line of coelurosaur or troodontid might have reached rudimentary intelligence before extinction wiped the slate clean. No evidence, no proof. But here it is, right in front of you. One of them freezes, sniffs, turns its head toward your hiding spot. You hold your breath so hard your ribs creak. Then, just as quickly, it looks away. After several more screeches and drumming rounds, the group disperses into the jungle, fires dying behind them. You wait a full 10 minutes before you dare move. Finally, when the clearing is fully dark again, you step out. You walk slowly to the center where the fire was and crouch. The ground is still warm. In the ash, you see a mark, etched deliberately with a stick. It's not a footprint. It's a symbol, something spiral-shaped, with branching lines. A map? A warning? A memory? You don't know. But you do know this. The Jurassic period just got a lot weirder. And bedtime just got a lot harder. You step backward from the spiral symbol in the ash, suddenly aware of every sound in the jungle, the crunch of beetles under leaves, the hum of distant night creatures, the wind shifting high in the canopy like a whisper you can almost understand. The warm ashes cling to your palms. Something about the moment feels like crossing a line, like touching something sacred. There's no evidence these intelligent dinosaur beings, let's call them the flame walkers, because, well, they walk near flames, have left any trace in the fossil record. But then again, fossils are notoriously picky about what they preserve. Maybe they were too few. Maybe they burned their dead. Maybe time just rolled over them like it always does. You shake your head, heart still pounding, and decide to backtrack to the sauropod herd. They feel like the safest thing in this world now, which is hilarious considering they could accidentally roll over and squish you like an old raisin. The jungle at night is a different beast altogether. You thought it was loud during the day? That was just the warm-up act. At night, the Jurassic sings with layered chaos, hoots, screeches, buzzes, and calls that sound like someone gargling a saxophone while falling down a hill. You try to identify anything familiar. Nope. That's either a frog or a velociraptor doing a duck impression. Hard to say. Fireflies, or their ancient cousins, are still flickering like glitchy LEDs, helping you navigate the uneven ground. And just when your nerves are starting to settle, something huge crashes through the underbrush nearby. You freeze. Immediately. Instinctively. Then, silence. You crouch, barely breathing. There's a soft snort, a heavy exhale, and finally, a shape looms into view, massive, horned, and crowned with a frill of bone. A ceratopsid. You're not sure which one exactly, maybe Craterosaurus or an early ancestor of Triceratops. Either way, it's like meeting a bison crossed with a medieval battering ram. It stares at you through the dark, eyes gleaming faintly. Then it starts chewing. Apparently, you're not interesting enough to charge. Lucky you. It lumbers away, flanked by a few smaller companions. Juveniles, you guess. Their movements are faster, jumpier, like toddlers with horns. Ceratopsians are mainly herbivores. Yes, but not helpless. Their horns were serious business, defense against predators, tools for sparring, and perhaps even for mating displays. Paleontologists still argue whether ceratopsians used their frills for thermoregulation, species recognition, or just to show off like the Jurassic version of flashy haircuts. You decide not to test any theories. The air grows cooler as you move closer to the tree line. You pick a spot under a thick fern canopy to rest for a moment, your first real pause since this prehistoric marathon began. You lay on your back, staring up at a sky so rich with stars it looks fake. The Milky Way slices across it, and there's no pollution, no satellites, no blinking planes, just eternity staring back at you. You wonder if the flame walkers look up too. Maybe they draw maps in the dirt of constellations we'll never recognize. You fall asleep, and then immediately wish you hadn't. You dream of fire, of spiral symbols burning into bark, of something watching you with golden slit pupil eyes. You wake with a start, but nothing's there. Just dew, cool air, the rustle of something slithering far away. The sauropod herd is gone, moved on in the night. You get up, wipe the leaves from your face, and start walking again. Soon, you reach a ridge. It rises steeply, black rocks jutting like the spine of a buried beast. You climb carefully, using roots and handholds, until you crest the top and stop dead. Below is a valley, wide, lush, shimmering with mist. And in the center, a volcano. A real, honest to whatever you believe in volcano, puffing smoke into the sky like an irritated dragon. Lava glows faintly from a vent near its base, and steam vents hiss along the cracks of the earth. The entire place breathes heat. This is not somewhere you want to hang out long term. But it's mesmerizing, and strangely, alive. Around the edges of the valley, you spot clusters of movement, herds, flocks, nesting colonies. Dinosaurs of all shapes and sizes. It's like every species in the region has converged here. A prehistoric watering hole / potential death trap. You begin descending cautiously. About halfway down, you slip. Just a little. A rock shifts underfoot and clatters down the slope. You freeze, heart in your throat. And that's when you see them again. The flame walkers. 3 of them. Standing near a cluster of rocks, observing the valley just as you are. But this time they see you. All 3 turn their heads. No surprise. No alarm. Just recognition. One of them lifts a hand. 3 fingers raised. Slowly, deliberately, you raise your hand in return. There's a long moment of silence between you, the volcano, and whatever silent pact you've just made. Then, without another gesture, they vanish into the steam like ghosts. You sit down, brain melting slightly. If these creatures had a culture, what happened to it? Did the asteroid wipe them out along with everything else? Did they go underground? Did they just fade? The idea that you've just brushed against a lost intelligence older than humanity makes your stomach turn a bit. And weirdly, your eyes sting. Not from smoke, from wonder. You let yourself sit there a while longer, staring at the volcano. Eventually, the heat becomes too much. You start walking again, skirting the edge of the valley, keeping to shaded spots. You pass a nesting ground, scores of eggs nestled in sand. Some already hatched. Tiny tracks scatter in every direction. You spot a baby hadrosaur wobbling after its mother, chirping like a squeaky toy. It's absurd, beautiful, weirdly adorable. You crouch nearby, just watching. Then suddenly shadow. Something above you, blocking the sun. You look up, and what you see makes your mouth fall open in complete silence. A massive pterosaur, easily the size of a small airplane, glides overhead, casting a graceful silhouette across the valley floor. Its wings stretch wide, leathery and majestic. Its crest slices the air like a rudder. You know this one, Quetzalcoatlus, one of the largest flying animals that ever lived. And it just looked at you, mid-flight. A single curious glance before it disappears over the ridge. You sit there, stunned again, which seems to be your default state lately. The sky begins to darken. The volcano growls softly. You realize the journey through the Jurassic isn't just about dinosaurs anymore. It's about stories, silent ones, etched into ash, footprints, and the faint shimmer of memory. Stories left behind by giants, by ghosts, by maybe sapient lizards with a drum circle. And somehow, you're part of it now. The valley hums beneath you like a giant heart, pumping heat and life through the Jurassic world. You start walking again, circling around the volcano's base, careful to avoid the steaming vents that spit hot breath through cracks in the rock. The air smells like sulfur and wet stone. Honestly, it smells like a science museum's basement if someone forgot to mop up the lava exhibit. Still gripping the compass you found in the rusted field kit, you glance down at the needle. It spins lazily, confused, either broken or unsure of what magnetic north even is in a time before Wi-Fi. Ahead, the land slopes downward again into a dense basin filled with taller trees and a kind of mist that hugs the ground like a protective spell. As you descend, the temperature drops slightly, and the air takes on a sweet, sharp scent, like pine needles mixed with citrus. You inhale deeply and immediately sneeze. Some ancient pollen just tried to fight your modern lungs. Rude. The undergrowth here is rich and strange. Giant horsetails rise beside thick cycads, and the occasional glossy-leafed shrub glows faintly in the gloom. This forest is quieter, more secretive, less of a zoo, more of a cathedral. And that's when you hear something, clicking, rhythmic, mechanical sounding, not like a predator, not like anything you've heard before. You crouch low behind a fern and peek through. A strange sight greets you, a creature about the size of a large dog, walking upright on two legs. It's feathered. Yes, feathers in the Jurassic, deal with it, and has bright, intelligent eyes. It holds a stick, not a broken branch. A stick, peeled of bark, smoothed, carved. It taps it on a rock. 3 times. Pause. 3 times again. You freeze, barely breathing. It doesn't see you. You watch for several minutes as it picks up what looks like a round seed or nut and begins using the stick to crack it open against the stone. Tool use. That's not just remarkable. That's civilization stuff. This creature looks like a trodontid or something in that family. They were small, fast, and had unusually large brains for their body size. Paleontologists often refer to them as the brainiest dinosaurs. Some even theorize they were on a potential evolutionary track toward intelligence, had the asteroid not interfered. Historians still argue whether these creatures were truly self-aware or just really good at being clever little murder birds. But this one is thinking. You slowly retreat without disturbing it, your heart racing with something that feels like awe mixed with fear and too much caffeine. As you move deeper into the misty forest, you come upon another surprise, a clearing filled with mushrooms. Not the little ones you'd saute with garlic, but enormous, umbrella-sized caps in purples, reds, and oranges. Some of them glow faintly, casting an eerie light on the undergrowth. You touch one. It squelches like wet bread. Immediately, your fingers tingle, and you remember that in prehistoric times, even plants didn't play nice. You wipe your hand on a tree trunk and move on. Farther along the path, you stumble upon something that shouldn't be there, another artifact. This time, it's metal, but more modern than the field kit. It's a boot, half buried. Worn leather, reinforced sole, definitely human. Someone else really has been here. You dig a bit more and find the remains of a backpack, ripped, moldy, but unmistakably contemporary. There's a patch on the fabric, a logo of a spiral surrounded by stars. You frown. Spiral. Like the symbol in the fire pit from the Flamewalkers. Coincidence? You find a pocket notebook inside, completely ruined by moisture, but one phrase is legible. Portal opened without full calibration. Time anchor unstable. Lost track of subject 4B. Avoid east sector, predator density too high. A chill crawls down your spine like a lizard in a cold shower. Portal. Time anchor. Subject 4B. What were they doing here? How long ago? And where are they now? Are you subject 4B? No time to think. The ground begins to shake. A dull, steady tremor, like the heartbeat of something waking up. Then the sound hits you. A low, vibrating roar that rolls across the land like thunder. Everything in the forest freezes. birds, bugs, even the wind. You turn slowly. At the far edge of the clearing, trees sway unnaturally. Then snap. A massive head pushes through the greenery. It pushes through. A tyrannosaur. Not a cartoon. Not a museum model. The real thing. 20 feet tall. Lips pulled back from banana-sized teeth. Small arms twitching. Eyes locked onto the exact spot where you were standing, looking entirely too edible. You do the only thing that makes sense. You run. No poetic thoughts now. No slow motion marveling at nature. Just running. Through trees, through mist, over fallen logs, heart pounding like a war drum. You hear it behind you, branches cracking, ground splitting, an angry exhale that smells like meat and nightmares. You dodge left, right, trip, roll. You plunge into a stream and let it carry you downhill, praying that the water masters sit. The current throws you against rocks, spins you like a sock in a washing machine, then dumps you into a muddy pool. You surface, gasping, listening, nothing, silence, then a distant roar, fading. Not because the tyrannosaur gave up. No, it was distracted by something bigger. You pull yourself out of the pool, dripping and shivering, and collapse beneath a massive leaf. Water drips from the canopy. Your breath finally starts to slow. The tyrannosaur was real. Too real. It looked at you like it knew what shoes were. You lie there for a long time, shaking, until sleep takes you again, deep, dreamless, the sleep of someone who just barely didn't die. And the spiral symbol pulses behind your closed eyes. You wake to sunlight filtering through mist, golden and warm, like the world is trying to apologize for almost feeding you to a tyrannosaur yesterday. Your body aches from the scramble, but you're not dead, always a win in the Jurassic. The mud has mostly dried on your clothes, your hair is full of sticks, and you smell like the inside of a compost bin. But you're alive. You stretch out under the giant leaf and hear the steady sound of water nearby. The stream that saved you. You follow it upstream this time, feet squelching in moss and soft dirt. The forest is lighter here, opening into a kind of river basin with ferns the size of patios and dragonflies the size of frisbees. One zips past your head and lands on a rock. You pause, squinting. This one isn't ordinary. It's a Meganeura, an actual Jurassic dragonfly ancestor with a wingspan that could slap your whole face in one go. It turns its enormous compound eyes toward you like you just insulted its mother. Then it buzzes off like a helicopter with attitude. You laugh, a weird, shaky laugh. Everything in this place is trying to eat you, scare you, or confuse you. And you're still here. Honestly, that's impressive. As you follow the river, you come upon something strange. Perfectly aligned stones in the water, like stepping stones set by someone or something that didn't want to get its feet wet. You test one with your foot. It doesn't wobble. You step forward carefully, crossing the river like you're in some weird game show where falling in means meeting a prehistoric leech. As you reach the other side, the trail leads upward into rocky hills. The temperature shifts. The plants change. Thinner ferns, wind-blasted bushes, and trees with bark like scales. You've reached higher ground in a very different Jurassic neighborhood. You stop at the top of a ridge and gasp. Spread out below is a vast canyon, like the earth has been sliced open with a giant claw. The rock is red, striated, and littered with bones. Everywhere, bones. Giant femurs, shattered skulls, ribs as tall as street lamps. It's a dinosaur graveyard. You descend carefully, stepping between weathered fossils that jut out of the ground like forgotten monuments. Some are ancient, others fresh. You spot one rib cage that still has tendons clinging to it. Something big died here. Recently. You crouch near a rock shelf and spot something even more curious, scratch marks. Long, parallel, and deliberate. Not animal claw swipes. Not erosion. These are symbols. Maybe letters. Or a form of counting. Your heart skips. More signs of intelligence. Possibly flamewalkers. Possibly something else. And then the air changes. There's a pressure in your ears. A rising hum, like a distant engine, or maybe like the world is tuning itself to a different frequency. You duck instinctively behind a tall bone just as a shimmer moves across the canyon. It's not wind, not smoke, not even heat haze. It's a ripple. You crawl closer to the edge of the canyon wall and peer down. In the exact center is a flat slab of obsidian, smooth and polished, reflecting the sky. Around it, tall stones stand in a rough circle, each one carved with symbols. And standing at the slab's edge are 4 flamewalkers. They look different this time. Adorned, feathers braided, shells strung around their necks. One wears what looks like a carved bone mask. They begin to chant, not loudly, but rhythmically. The kind of sound you feel in your bones. You can't move. Their chant grows, still low, still eerie. Then, from the center of the obsidian slab, light begins to rise. Not fire, not magic. It looks technological. A soft beam, humming with pale blue energy, spirals upward into the sky like a tether to something beyond time. And in that light, something flickers. Images. Brief, unstable. You see fire. Cities. A night sky full of stars and symbols. The silhouette of a modern satellite. A spiral again. And then the light cuts out. Silence. The flame walkers lower their hands. One turns, slowly, calmly, and looks directly at you. You duck, but too late. They've seen you. You prepare to run, but no one chases you. Instead, the masked flame walker raises its hand and points, not at you, at something behind you. You turn. At the edge of the ridge, barely 10 meters away, stands a creature like nothing you've seen yet. It's bipedal, tall, covered in iridescent feathers. Its face is long and narrow, almost hawk-like, with piercing orange eyes. In its hand is a tool, not a rock, a device, sleek, metallic, with glowing rings on its side. It's not a dinosaur. It's something else. It studies you for a long time. Then it presses a symbol on the device. You feel the world shift. Not visually, not audibly, just like gravity leans sideways for a moment. And in that instant, the symbols on the canyon wall light up. So does the slab. So does your compass. The device hums again. The creature tilts its head and disappears, gone. Not run, not hidden, just not there anymore. You collapse backward, breathing hard, pulse wild. What was that? The flame walkers haven't moved. They're still staring. And then, slowly, the obsidian slab begins to rise, lifting upward with no visible mechanism, revealing a staircase beneath, spiraling downward into the earth. This isn't just a graveyard. It's a gateway. You step forward, because of course you do. What else are you going to do? Go back to dodging sauropod poop? The steps are cool underfoot. The light shifts as you descend, from sunlit gold to muted blue. The further down you go, the less the air feels like air. More like memory. You smell burning feathers. Rain. Something electric. You pass a wall etched with hundreds of spiral symbols. Each one slightly different, none random. You reach the bottom, and there, in the middle of a chamber lit by a glowing pool of liquid light, stands a stone plinth. On it, a modern journal. Leather-bound, dry, preserved. Its cover bears the same Spiral Landstar's logo you saw earlier. You open it. Inside, sketches, notes, maps, equations, a drawing of the flamewalkers, a warning written in red ink. They remember more than we do. You flip the page. Another note. If you're reading this, you've already crossed the threshold. The portal won't stay stable much longer. Choose your direction wisely. And beneath that coordinates, your own, where you started. The question is, can you go back? You stand there a long time in the blue glow of the chamber, journal in hand, the strange symbols swirling in your head like puzzle pieces from 10 different jigsaw boxes all dumped onto the same table. Choose your direction wisely. No pressure, right? The coordinates listed in the journal match the clearing where you first woke up. The one near the broken field kit, where the sky seemed just a bit too quiet. According to this warning, it might be the only stable point left for you to return to, if there even is a return. But you're not ready yet. Something's pulling you deeper into the underground network. The air down here is oddly breathable, like it's been filtered through ancient secrets. The walls pulse faintly with patterns of light, and as you move through the corridor beyond the chamber, Your footsteps echo in a way that makes it feel like you're not alone. You pass more of the spiral symbols etched into stone. But here, they're different. Interlocking. Interwoven. You pause at one, there's a human handprint carved next to it. Adult-sized. Fingers long. Almost too long. Next to it is a charcoal drawing on the wall, preserved through who knows how long. A human figure, stick-like, sure, but definitely not a dinosaur. Standing beside a tall, feathered creature with the same profile as the one you saw earlier. The tool is drawn too in its hand. Below that, another drawing, a circle filled with stars. The spiral again. Some believe symbols are a kind of memory, an attempt to cheat time. This place is filled with memory. Historians still argue whether prehistoric cultures ever left behind knowledge encoded in ways modern humans simply haven't deciphered yet. But if this underground temple or lab, or whatever it is real, then it's not just the history of Earth that's down here. It's the history of time itself. You enter a larger hall. At the center, a stone table covered in fossilized bones, but arranged, not scattered. It's a skeleton reassembled, but not one any paleontologist has ever seen. This creature is built for speed, for hunting, for thinking. It has a cranial cavity nearly double the size of any known dinosaur. You step closer and spot something embedded in the skull, a metal disc. Circular, unmarked, but familiar. It matches the base of the device the feathered being was holding. Your hand itches just looking at it. You back away. The next chamber is darker, colder, lined with what you think are pods, glass and stone, cracked in places. Inside them, shapes. Some humanoid, others very much not. They're all frozen in place. Some mid-movement, some curled up, fetal. One looks like it's looking at you, eyes wide open, unmoving. You edge past it. Is this some kind of stasis lab? A prehistoric zoo? A genetic archive? Your brain is doing mental cartwheels. You're a tourist in a museum built by something that predated and possibly predicted your very existence. Suddenly, one of the pods hisses. You freeze. Just pressure equalizing, right? Right? You start walking faster. You round the last bend of the tunnel and come to a chamber unlike any other. It's perfectly round, the ceiling domed and studded with what look like crystals. In the center, a platform with 3 prongs rising from it like a modern teleportation pad. Your compass vibrates. The journal grows warm in your hand. A low hum fills the room as you step forward. The prongs begin to glow, blue, then green, then something between color and thought. You feel it, not in your ears, but in your mind. A connection, a question. Return or stay? This isn't just a trip anymore. It's a test. And maybe it always was. You flip through the journal again and find a final message, scrawled hastily on the back cover. I thought the past was a place. It's not. It's a loop. And it watches back. Well, that's comforting. You take one final look around the ancient, not-so-empty chamber and step onto the platform. It reacts immediately. A whir of energy coils around your feet, then climbs up your spine like electric fog. The ceiling crystals blaze with light. You're lifted gently off the ground, weightless. And then, silence. Darkness. No sound, no smell, no air. Just memory and light. A spiral opens in front of you. Not metaphorical. A literal spiral, spinning slowly like a galaxy viewed through a telescope the size of your entire life. It pulls you forward, and you fall. Through moments. You see the troodonid with the stick. You see the tyrannosaur again, but this time from above, watching it stalk a herd of hadrosaurs. You see the feathered one, placing the device on the stone plinth and pressing it like a conductor cueing an orchestra. You fall further. You see the first human footprint in the wet Jurassic mud, somehow preserved. You see something else, make another print next to it. You fall through stars. And then, you're back. Same clearing, same weird hush to the air. But something's different. You check your pockets. The compass is gone. So is the journal. Instead, in your hand, is a single spiral-shaped stone. Not metal, not modern, carved. with a symbol on it you haven't seen before. It's your name, or something very close to it. The ferns rustle behind you. You don't turn around. You sit down in the grass and look up at the sky. The portal didn't break. It looped, and now you're part of it. You don't move for a long time. Just sit there in the clearing, stone in hand, watching the breeze ripple through the ferns like green waves on a sea of time. The sky is strangely calm again, clouds unmoving, light too steady. You feel like a bookmark slipped back into a page someone already turned. You run your fingers over the spiral stone again. It feels warm, not from the sun, but from within, like it's alive, or remembering you. The flame walkers didn't follow you here. At least, not in body, but you can feel them. Not watching, exactly, more like aware. Like a notification in the air that says, you've been noticed. You stand, stretch your stiff legs, and check the forest for signs of life. No movement, no birds, no chirping insects, not even a gust of wind. It's like the world is holding its breath. The stone pulse in your palm matches your heartbeat. You walk, slowly, back to the river you first found. The same one with the enormous dragonflies and the questionable drinking water. You crouch beside it, dip your hand in, and splash your face. Cold, grounding. Your reflection stares back at you, but it flickers. For a moment, your eyes look different. Too bright, too old. You blink, and it's gone. This isn't just the Jurassic anymore. Or maybe it never was. You're somewhere between history and echo. And the deeper truth? You're not the first one here. As you follow the water downstream, you notice something caught between the roots of a fern. Fabric. Faded. Shredded. You pull it loose and turn it over. It's a patch. Torn from a uniform. It reads, Temporal Research Division, Project Spiral. Well, that's not suspicious at all. Historians still argue whether early 21st century governments had active time experimentation divisions. Officially, no evidence supports it. Unofficially, patches like this one show up in the strangest black market artifact trades. You pocket the cloth and keep moving. The trees thin as you near a rise in the land, revealing a wide, open meadow. Something about it is unsettling, too flat, too precise. The grass grows in odd patterns, curving in concentric arcs, like ancient crop circles carved into a prehistoric world. And in the middle, a single, metallic spire. Short, squat, angular, covered in moss, but definitely not natural. You approach slowly, stepping over rocks that ring it like a ritual site. There's a small panel at the base, half buried in soil. You brush it off. A blinking light, faint but steady, winks at you like it's been waiting. You press it. A soft chime. Then the spire hums to life, unfolding like a flower made of geometry. Thin metallic arms spiral outward. A dome lifts and opens. Inside, instead of a weapon or a machine, you find something far stranger. A chair, fitted with restraints. Oh boy. You sit, but you don't strap in. Let's not be too eager. A voice crackles to life. Faint. Digitized. Female sounding. Spiral node 3 activated. Welcome back, operator. Back? Oh, great. The machine's interface begins displaying holograms, locations, timelines, biological readouts, and something labeled consciousness anchor stability. 63%. Not ideal. You reach out and swipe through the projections. One catches your attention, a live scan of the local biome. Dozens of organisms. Most tagged. One flashing red. You zoom in. It's you. Labeled. Loop Candidate 47B Memory Sync. Incomplete. You sit back. Try not to hyperventilate. Think about your favorite snacks. Think about naps. Then remember where you are. A field in the Jurassic era, sitting in a time chair inside a prehistoric spy flower. You sigh. You're fine. Totally fine. Another screen flickers. A new message appears, flashing in red. Do not engage specimen 47A. Observe only. Below it, an image loads. It's the feathered humanoid from the canyon. You recognize it instantly, those orange eyes. That impossible device. So there are two of you here, and one of them is very much not from your side of the timeline. Fringe theories have always entertained the possibility of convergent evolution. What if intelligence developed not just in primates, but also in certain dinosaur lineages? What if they never stopped evolving? What if they became time travelers first? You step out of the spire and look up. The sky flickers again, just for a heartbeat. A shimmering wave, like heat off asphalt, but colder, more deliberate. Something's watching, or arriving. Your stone spiral pulses once, then dims. You get the sense your time here is running short, but not ending, changing. You move again toward higher ground, through shifting trees and strange bird calls that sound almost synthetic, like something trying to sound natural but missing the mark by just one chirp. You pass another tree. Pause. There's a face carved into it. Not human, not fully, half-formed. Below it, a symbol, yours. Not exactly your name, not a signature, but a symbol only you could have left. And it's old, cracked, weather-worn. How long have you been here? How many loops? A sudden rustle in the underbrush stops your breath. You freeze. A shape steps out. Not a dinosaur, not a flame walker, a human, or at least a version of one. They wear part of the same uniform as your patch. Their skin is sunburned, their hair long. They look exhausted and familiar. They see you, smile weakly, then they speak. Took you long enough. You stare. Same eyes, same voice. It's you. Older, looped, lost, found. They toss something at your feet, a new compass, then walk away without another word and disappear into the trees. You pick up the compass. It's ticking, pointing toward a place you haven't seen yet. And beneath it, scratched in tiny letters. You don't escape the spiral. You become part of it. Word count, 1,102. Awaiting continue. Section 12. You hold the new compass for a long time, fingers curled around it like it might dissolve if you let go. It's heavier than the first, smoother, warmer, and instead of the typical needle, it has a spiraling thread of blue light gently turning within its glass dome. It points, not north, but somewhere else entirely. You turn in that direction and start walking. The landscape shifts as you move, almost like it's adjusting to your presence. Ferns part without wind. Small creatures peer from burrows and vanish again, unafraid but observant. It feels more curated than wild, like a simulation or a test run that's already been run too many times. The soil changes color beneath your boots, reddish now, almost volcanic. Steam rises from vents ahead, and the air smells faintly of sulfur and iron. The jungle gives way to open fields of blackened rock and shallow pools filled with bright, alien algae that pulse faintly in the dusk light. You've entered a geothermal zone. You wouldn't expect it in the Jurassic, but here you are. Historians still argue whether widespread geothermal anomalies like this one existed in temperate regions during the mid-Jurassic. Most point to limited fossil evidence. But in your case, evidence is oozing and steaming around your ankles. As you step between the rocks, you find another human artifact, a spoon. A metal one, half melted, stamped with an airline logo that doesn't exist yet. Next to it, a boot print, not yours. You crouch beside it and study the tread. Familiar, the same as the older version of you who tossed the compass. They came this way. You press onward. A ridge rises ahead, glowing faintly. You reach the top and gasp, not from exertion, but awe. Below you lies a basin, but not just any basin. An enormous, circular caldera. At its center, a structure, clearly not natural. Massive. Built from basalt and obsidian, it spirals inward like a fingerprint pressed into the earth. It gleams with embedded crystals and metal filaments that pulse in rhythm, like a heartbeat. This is where the compass has led you. The spiral temple. Or maybe, the spiral core. You descend carefully, but the landscape welcomes you. Stones arrange themselves just enough underfoot to keep your footing solid. It's eerie, comforting, controlled. As you reach the edge of the temple's outer ring, the stone spiral stone in your pocket begins to glow again, softly this time, like it's purring. A doorway opens in the wall, silent, seamless, perfectly fitted to your height. You enter. Inside, the temperature drops. Not cold, just still. Timeless. The walls are made of layered strata, each band of rock engraved with symbols. Spirals, stars, animal forms, some dinosaur, some bird, some human, others defy description. Shapes that hurt your brain if you stare too long. In the center of the vast inner chamber sits a sphere, floating, blacker than space. A void orb. It pulses with slow gravity, drawing your thoughts inward, even as you resist. Around it, a ring of chairs. 7. 6 are empty. One is not. A being sits there, quiet, unmoving. Tall, feathered, not surprised to see you. The Flame Walker. The same one you've encountered before. Its orange eyes flicker, and a low chime echoes through the room, like a tuning fork struck in your soul. It doesn't speak, not with words, but you feel the message. It's offering a choice. You reach for the spiral stone, and in response, the orb in the center of the room flickers. Once, then reveals a new vision. Timelines. Branches. You see versions of Earth, some familiar, some unrecognizable. In one, humans never rise. In another, dinosaurs become the dominant intelligence. One world is oceanic, another is a desert glass wasteland. And in each, the spiral appears. A beacon, a hub, a safeguard, or a cage. You look at the being again. It nods. Historians still argue whether there were ever custodian species, intelligences that monitored time, correcting paradoxes, or preventing collapse. Most laugh at the idea. You don't anymore. You take a step toward the orb. It shifts again, this time showing you. Sitting in the same chair. Older, calmer, part of the loop. It's not death. It's continuity. You breathe in and sit. The orb pulses in response. Your mind stretches, not painfully, but like unfolding wings. Memory floods back. Not just yours, others. Flame walkers, lost travelers, scientists, hunters, witnesses, all of them, versions of you. The stone in your hand dissolves into light, and the spiral symbol appears across your skin, glowing gently. You understand now. You weren't brought here. You were returned. The timeline doesn't move forward. It curves, and now you've become part of the curve. Outside, the sky shifts color. Not today, not tonight, but to something between. Time, breathing, inside you, around you, forever. You don't sleep that night, not in the usual sense. You sit in the chair, the spiral orb humming gently in front of you, and time becomes something softer. No longer a straight line, but a loop of sensation and slow understanding. Flashes of memory glide across your mind like lazy fish in a clear pond. You, climbing cliffs with claws you didn't have before. You, writing symbols in the dirt that only the orb can read. You, laughing with something that definitely isn't human and you don't seem to mind. And then, snap, you're back, still in the chair. The orb dims slightly, the spiral mark on your skin pulsing like a soft nightlight. You step away, not because you're finished, but because the place seems to agree it's time to move on. You exit through a new doorway, the basalt stone folding away like petals again. You're no longer in the caldera. You're standing at the edge of an enormous cliff. And below you, dinosaurs. So many of them. Hundreds, maybe thousands. Herds stretching across a massive valley, like a living tide of movement and instinct. Brachiosaurs trudge in lines the size of trains. Ankylosaurs lumber behind, like tanks with tails. And soaring overhead, a flock of pterosaurs that ripple in and out of cloud cover, their wings catching the morning light like sails. You exhale slowly. Yeah, okay. This is incredible. You make your way down a natural path carved into the rock. As you descend, you notice carvings, some from you, some ancient, some not from your species at all. You start seeing more artifacts lodged in stone. A modern hiking boot, petrified in place. A pair of shattered glasses. A small drone with broken wings. You're not the only one who's ever made it this far, apparently. Historians still debate whether early quantum experiments might have accidentally sent matter, or people, into deep time. Of course, no evidence supports the theory, except, for the literal drone half-fused into a Jurassic rock wall. You reach the base of the cliff and step into the valley. The dinosaurs ignore you. They sense you, sure. Some glance your way. A few even sniff the air in your direction. But none of them charge, screech, or stomp you into paste. Maybe the spiral mark wards you. Or maybe you're just boring. Highly likely. You pass between herds. It's like walking through living history. One curious stegosaur swings its tail a little too close, and you do a small, undignified hop out of the way. At the far end of the valley, you spot something strange, again. A tall formation of standing stones. Think Stonehenge, but older. Way older. And scattered with bones. You approach carefully. The stones are arranged in a spiral, shocker. But this one is incomplete. One of the tall pillars has fallen. Another has clearly been moved or stolen. And in the center, a skeleton. Human. Well, mostly human. Too tall. Arm bones too long. Fingers oddly tapered. You crouch beside it and notice what remains of a spiral mark carved into the femur. You don't feel afraid. You feel recognized. The bones are holding something. A journal. Weathered, pages brittle, written in an old language that keeps flickering between English, German, and something with triangular glyphs. You flip it open carefully. There's a passage underlined, one sentence in bold. If you read this, you're already me. Okay, cool. Nothing creepy about that. You flip further, and a diagram catches your eye, a map. The same valley you're in, marked with XS. One near a river bend, one beneath a cliff, one circled several times beneath the spiral temple. You study the notes. Scrawled thoughts, not escape, not return, reintegration. Another, they don't feed on flesh. They feed on anomaly. And finally, if the spiral ever stops turning, the loop dies with it. Right. So now you have something approaching a mission. Or at least a very ominous suggestion from an ancient time-traveling version of yourself who may or may not still be alive, depending on how you define alive. You fold the journal gently and tuck it into your pack. Time to move again. The sun is setting, and the air cools with that dry, smoky scent from distant vents. You make camp beneath a high rock ledge, just in case any of the friendly dinos get a little twitchy during the night. And as the stars come out bright, unfamiliar, and impossibly close, you notice a few are moving. Not like satellites. Like watchers. You curl up, spiral stone under your head, and feel the ground thrum softly beneath you. Not danger. Not yet. Just the spiral. Always turning. Even when you sleep. Especially when you sleep. You close your eyes. And the orb is there again. Calling. Whispering through dreams that don't belong to you. Yet, you wake up before the sun. Or maybe the sun is just taking its time, slouching lazily toward the horizon while you sit cross-legged on a warm rock, sipping water from your canteen and staring at the spiral journal in your lap. The ink is faded, but somehow it refreshes itself as you reread the entries. Like the pages remember being read and try to help you out a little more each time. You follow the circled X on the map, under the spiral temple. That means going back. Of course it does. You pack up, shake the ants out of your socks, ants that look suspiciously like ants, but also maybe have way too many knees, and start hiking. It takes most of the morning to reach the edge of the caldera again. The basalt formations shimmer in the rising heat, and that familiar gravity pulls at your chest as you approach. But something's different now. The temple is closed. The doorway you walked through before is gone, just smooth black stone where it once parted. You try pressing your hand to it. Nothing. You try knocking. Yeah, still nothing. You consider yelling, but a shriek overhead changes your mind. One of the pterosaurs is circling. Very high, but circling all the same. You take a step back and glance at the map again. The X isn't on the temple, exactly. It's under it. Of course. You circle around the spiral formation until you find a ridge. A crevice leads downward, half covered in ferns and scree. You descend with care and your fair share of complaining. The path grows tighter. The walls close in. Your boots scrape obsidian. At one point, You swear the darkness presses against you like velvet. And then a light, a faint blue glow ahead. You squeeze through one last narrow crack, and suddenly you're in a cavern. Massive. Cavernous, obviously, because that's the whole point of a cavern. The walls ripple with bioluminescent moss, and in the center stands a device. That's the only word your mind can attach to it. Device. It's like a gyroscope made of metal you've never seen, hovering gently over a circular basin of water. Rings spin around its center, glowing with the same blue energy as the spiral stone in your pocket. Small bursts of heat rise from it rhythmically, like breathing, and carved into the rock below it. Another spiral. Of course, you step closer, journal in hand, and flip to the final set of notes under that circled X. The device reads anomalies. It doesn't fix them. That's your job. You have to leave one thing behind. That's the toll. Not something you want to lose. Something you don't. Okay, so nothing easy. You kneel beside the basin and stare into the water. Your reflection stares back, except it's not quite you. The eyes are too old. The expression too tired. You look like someone who's already done this 100 times. Maybe you have. Historians still argue whether consciousness can exist in parallel timelines, or if traveling too often creates fractured, splintered selves. Fringe theorists call it temporal overlap syndrome. You just call it Monday. You search your pack for something meaningful. Not your food, not your flashlight, not the journal. You need that. Then you find it. The photo, crumpled, half-faded. A picture from before all this. You and someone else. The smile on your face is lopsided. Sleepy. Honest. No spiral marks. No obsidian scars. Just you. You hesitate. This isn't something you want to lose, but it is something you've been afraid to let go of. You place it in the basin. The gyroscope pulses. The photo dissolves instantly. No ash, no fire. Just gone. In response, the basin deepens, expands, fills with light instead of water, and the device sings. Not literally, but a tone fills the room. Warm, rich, like a cello string played through a CA. The cave itself hums in sympathy. You place your hand on the spiral, and the world folds. No jerk, no rush, no weird time tunnel vomit. Just fold. When it straightens again, you're not in the cave. You're standing on a grassy hill, with gentle wind in your hair and birds overhead. Not pterosaurs, just birds. Real, normal, chirpy birds. You're back? You look down. Your boots are muddy. Your hands are still spiral marked. The journal is still in your pack. But this place, this time feels different. Familiar. You turn around slowly. In the distance, a small town. Power lines. Houses. A school bus. And nearby, a museum. A natural history museum. And on the banner outside, a big headline. Exhibit, the mystery of the spiral stones. Your knees go a little weak. You know that exhibit. You remember going to it as a kid. Except, there wasn't a photo of you in the display case back then. You walk toward it. As you get closer, you spot a spiral carved into the sidewalk. Not official. Graffiti. It matches your mark perfectly. People pass you by. No one stares. You feel weightless. Like maybe, just maybe, you've bent the loop enough to slide back into it. You push the museum door open. It smells like dust and air conditioning. You breathe in deeply. You're ready to see what else they've remembered. The museum feels smaller than you remember. That always happens, doesn't it? Places from childhood shrink with age, ceilings lower, doorways narrow, the echo in the halls a little less cathedral-like. But this time, it's not just perception. You know something's different. You feel it in the floorboards. You walk past familiar dioramas. Giant skeletons of creatures you now know on a first-name basis. The mighty Allosaurus you once tiptoed around as a kid now looks tired, almost apologetic. His arms still too short, his teeth still ridiculous. You nod at him. He does not nod back. The spiral exhibit is just ahead. The sign is new, maybe a few months old. Big stylized font. Spirals through time, the mystery of the ancient mark. Below it, A glass case holds a stone identical to the one you carry. Not similar. Identical. Right down to the small chip in the corner. You check your pocket. Yours is still there. You blink. Yeah, definitely something weird going on here. The plaque beside the stone reads, "Discovered in 1997 in a collapsed volcanic cave in Utah. This artifact predates human history by at least 100 million years. Analysis shows non-terrestrial isotopes and nanofissures consistent with high-energy temporal displacement. Its function remains unknown. Historians still argue whether the spiral stones are evidence of prehistoric intelligence, alien technology, or some form of reality anchoring device. Most agree on one thing. No culture on Earth has ever claimed ownership of them. You have. Sort of. You move deeper into the exhibit. Photographs line the walls, cave paintings, spiral glyphs from South America, petroglyphs from Australia, and even an unconfirmed engraving supposedly found on the moon by an unmanned probe. In the center of the room is a chair. Not just any chair. The chair. Your chair. Spiral-marked obsidian, cushioned with leather straps, half melted from lava on one side. They've put a velvet rope around it. As if that would help. You walk slowly around it, heart thumping just slightly. And then you see it. In the corner of the case, a tiny nameplate. Old, rusted. It reads, "Donated by, unknown. Foundering excavation by T. Ellis, age 10. T. Ellis. That's your name. That's your handwriting. You remember finding it. Or maybe you remember planting it. The timeline loops, and you're caught in its gears like lint in a watch. You stumble back slightly, trying to process what this means. There's a cough behind you. A museum docent is watching. She's about 60. Sharp eyes. Spiral pendant around her neck, clearly sold in the gift shop. "Beautiful, isn't it?" she says softly. You nod. "Do you believe the rumors?" she asks. "About time travel? That these stones choose who sees them?" You consider lying. You consider telling her she's not ready. But instead, you say, "Ooh, yeah, I think they remember us." She gives you a long look, then smiles sadly. "That's what my grandfather used to say." You raise your eyebrows. "Worked on the excavation team," she adds. "Swore he saw the rock shimmer. Of course, they said he just had heat stroke. But I always wondered." You want to say more. You want to tell her everything. But something stops you. Not fear. Not secrecy. Just the spiral. It's humming in your pocket again. You thank her and exit the exhibit, feeling eyes on your back, painted eyes, glass eyes, real eyes maybe. Outside, the sun has moved. The sky is golden, and the streets are quiet. You walk along the sidewalk, and without planning to, you follow the spiral graffiti. It leads you behind the museum, to a garden, overgrown with wild herbs and quiet statues. One of them is a lizard-like dinosaur you don't recognize. Probably an artist's mistake. You find a bench. Sit. Let the weight of time settle on your shoulders like a familiar blanket. There's still more to do. You know that now. The spiral doesn't just loop for fun. It loops because it has to. To remember. To reinforce. To try again and again until something finally sticks. You pull out the journal. Pages are flipping on their own now, like wind or something deeper. One page near the back is freshly inked. You didn't write it. It says, 3 more anchors remain. 1 to witness. 1 to erase. 1 to become. You stare at those words for a long time. The journal closes itself gently. You lean back. Birdsong mixes with distant traffic. Your fingers trace the spiral mark. And you wait for the next loop. Because you already know. It's not over. Not yet. A few nights pass in relative quiet. You sleep in a small rented room above a bakery. The scent of sourdough and vanilla wafts through the floorboards each morning, waking you gently, like a childhood memory you can't quite place. You find yourself living slowly, meals, long walks, even longer silences. But the spiral doesn't let you rest forever. One evening, just before twilight, you feel the pull again. A vibration under your skin. A flicker of static in your vision. The kind of whisper your bones hear before your ears do. You check the journal. The page has changed again. This time, a sketch. A mountain range you don't recognize. with a spiral engraved in the rocks above a waterfall. Below, a single phrase. Anchor 2. Witness extinction. Cool. No pressure. You pack your bag. This time, fewer supplies. You know better now. This journey doesn't care about extra granola bars. It cares about intention. The flight is long, the hike longer. You pass no other travelers. The wind-up here is thinner, colder. The trees are stunted, bowed from centuries of weather. But the spiral leads you, always. You find the falls just as the sun slips behind the peaks. The rock is slick, the air heavy with mist. And carved into the cliff face, enormous and ancient, is the spiral. It shimmers faintly. You reach out and place your hand against it. The world jerks this time. No polite folding. No gentle slide. It snaps. And you're somewhere else. Heat. Pressure. The air is thick, soupy, humming with life, but also with warning. You smell ozone. Hear distant thunder. And then you look up. The sky is wrong. An eerie red glow pulses along the horizon, like a distant wildfire. But you know it's not fire. It's fallout. Not nuclear. Celestial. You realize what you're witnessing. This is it. The end of the Jurassic. You've been sent to witness the cataclysm. Below you, the lush valleys you've walked before stretch wide and oblivious. Sauropods graze under canopies of ferns. Pterosaurs glide above rivers. The world is alive, vibrant, and doomed. Historians still argue whether the mass extinction at the end of the Jurassic was caused by volcanic activity, changing sea levels, or an asteroid strike. Fringe theorists even suggest a microbial imbalance triggered by off-world spores. But you're watching it. The spiral has placed you in the final hours. Time passes in a daze. You hear animals calling, louder than normal. Birds that aren't quite birds screech and scatter. The ground vibrates under your feet. And then, a low rumble. Not thunder. Something deeper. The kind of sound that rearranges your organs slightly. The sky splits. A streak of white fire arcs from horizon to horizon. You flinch, shield your eyes. When you open them again, the fire is gone. But the clouds swirl oddly. Ash begins to fall, like soft gray snow. It coats the leaves, the water, your skin. Somewhere in the distance, something enormous screams. You stand perfectly still. And yet, even here, even now, the spiral in your pocket is warm. You take it out. Hold it gently. Its glow is steady. It's not afraid. You aren't either. You were brought here to witness, not to interfere. So you do. You sit on a ridge, just above the forest line, and you watch the end come. Not all at once. Not with a bang. But slowly, like a curtain being drawn. One species at a time. You write in your journal. Sketch the falling ash. Mark the constellations as they vanish in haze. At one point, a small animal, a lizard with proto-feathers, crawls into your lap. It looks up at you, shivers, then curls beside your leg and sleeps. You both stay there for hours. Because there's nothing else to do. Because this is what the spiral wanted. To be remembered. To be seen. When the light begins to fade into a red dusk, you stand. The spiral pulses once. The journal flips pages again. A message glows faintly on the last one. Anchor 2 complete. One remains. To become. You feel the shift before it hits. This time, no visuals. Just light. Blinding, endless light. And silence. When it clears, you're somewhere in between. Not quite reality. Not quite dream. The ground is white and soft. The air hums like the inside of a seashell. You hear nothing, but you feel everything. The spiral in your hand flares, then melts, slowly, into your skin. Gone. Absorbed. Like it was never separate to begin with. You fall to your knees. Not in pain, just in surrender. There's no need to witness anymore. No need to search. You've seen the end. And now what's next? You are floating. Not metaphorically, not sleepily. Literally. Suspended in a space that isn't space, surrounded by something that isn't light, but it glows all the same. The spiral is gone from your hand, but not from you. You feel it in your breath, in your pulse, like it has settled into your bones and decided to stay a while. Like an old friend who moved into your attic and now waters the plants when you're not home. There's no ground beneath your feet. There's no need for ground anymore. Shapes drift around you. Images, maybe. Memories. Possibilities. A pack of allosaurs stalks silently across a glassy river. A sauropod calf nudges its dying mother as ash drifts around them like a snow globe. A museum exhibit flickers between future and past. You're outside of time now, and the spiral is offering you a choice. Because that's what to become really means. It's not about changing into something else. It's about choosing what to keep. The journal opens one last time, though it's more like a projection now. No paper, no binding, just words floating in the air, pulsing with soft amber glow. The loop ends when you decide who you are in it. Simple, terrifying. You think back over the creatures you've met, the absurdity you've endured, the quiet horror of watching extinction roll in like the tide. The spiral didn't just want you to see history. It wanted you to feel it, to know it, to remember it in a way the world never could. Because history doesn't just repeat itself. It depends on people like you to carry its echoes forward. So you make your choice. You reach out, not with hands, but with memory. You choose to remember the Jurassic not as a time of monsters, but of giants that breathed and died and left no names behind. You choose to become the thing that can whisper them back into the world. The spiral accepts, and the world reforms. Gently, like waking up from a nap. You're lying on your bed. It's quiet. The fan is humming softly in the corner. A blanket is tangled around your legs. Outside, a bird calls. It doesn't sound like a pterosaur. Not really, but you smile anyway. Because you know now. It's morning. You sit up. Reach for the journal on your nightstand. It's blank, not empty, just waiting. In your palm, the faintest glow pulses for a moment, then fades. Maybe you'll write it all down one day. Maybe you already have. All you know is, the spiral is silent now. Not gone. Just satisfied. You rise, stretch, breathe, and step back into the world. Not as a time traveler, but as its archivist, its witness, its spiral. And now, dear boring time traveler, it's time to let everything soften. Let the roaring dinosaurs fade into gentle murmurs in the distance. Let the spiral grow quiet, like a candle being blown out in slow motion. You've traveled more than 150 million years tonight, and maybe even further than that, through lava plains and quiet fern forests, past thundering footfalls and into the silence of extinction. You've carried something important, not just a stone, not just a story, but a kind of listening that's rare in the modern world. Take a breath, long in and out. Let your shoulders drop. Let your fingers rest. You don't need to remember every creature's name. You don't need to explain what the spiral was. Maybe it was just a dream. Maybe it was the oldest part of you, stirring again. What matters now is the quiet. Let the last images dissolve. The cracked museum floor, the shimmer in the waterfall cave, the soft nudge of a baby dinosaur curled against your side. There's nothing left to fix, nothing more to witness. You are already enough, just as you are, now, lying here in this little slice of time we call tonight. The past is asleep now, and you should be too. So close your eyes. Let the fan hum. Let the darkness wrap you up like the soft wings of a prehistoric bird. And sleep well, traveler of time. Sleep very well.